You are beautiful. You were a good dream. You are a shining star in a cold, dark nighttime world. It's May, it's harvest time for Palo Verde. It's at the very beginning of harvest time where you'll find the sweetest Palo Verde beans that grow because they're still not fully ripe. When they're not fully ripe, they're kind of like garden sweet peas. When they're fully ripe, they're a little more like soybeans, like sweet soy. In fact, they're almost identical except that they grow on a tree instead of a bush. So the texture is roughly the same and the taste. Right now, going a few videos back, remember I started to experiment a little bit with desert senna, and now we're kind of at the beginning of that cycle. And I'm going to open up a pod here, and the inside of the pod, here you go. The seeds are very green right now, and they're not bad, fairly sweet. I can find slightly, well, let's say more developed pods that I guess you could call ripe, that are a little more crunchy. And then if you get the old ones from, say, last year, then they're very crunchy, you know. I've experimented with these a little bit, eaten quite a bit of it, and I've had enough of them that if it was going to cause problems, that it should have caused problems by now. Remember that the pods and the leaves from desert senna can be made into a tea that is used as a laxative, so that's the kind of problem you would expect to have, but just with the seeds themselves, I've never heard any such thing. I also haven't heard of people eating them except for me, and I've found them to be fine. So now is the time of the year that they're beginning to grow. And in my experience, they're fine for the Sasquatch diet. The saguaro fruits are one of the next things to become ripe. Also, pretty much right after the Palo Verde, you're going to have the desert ironwood beans that are going to be ready, because they don't, while they're flowering at the same time now, this is the end of the Palo Verde flowering cycle, so the pods come out next, and the desert ironwood are in full bloom right now, so everything is staggered. Afterwards, you're going to, when it gets into triple digit heat, you're going to have your prickly pear fruits that are ready, that'll last you all summer. You can eat those for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and as long as you swallow the seeds and don't spit them out, then you got all that protein from the seeds too. An angel out of place, you came to me just in time, my love. My love, beyond time and space, my broken heart began to race. I wanted too good to be true. chaparral doesn't know whether it's sweet or bitter, so you have to adjust its attitude by telling it, eat something sweet afterwards, like Palo Verde, and it gets rid of that bitter taste. Like chaparral, Palo Verde is also very high in protein. Maybe not as high, but it's important to know, because if you were going full vegan Sasquatch, then you could eat a lot of these, not have to worry about not eating meat and not getting your protein from that. Mesquite pods can be eaten when they're really young, chewed up, and then they start getting really fibrous as they get older. You saw me eating those in a previous video. The really young ones that are very small, just coming off the branch, you can chew those up and swallow them. They're not nearly as good as Palo Verde peas, though. But it's really important is that there's no way to starve out here. If you have any idea, any information on these plants and trees, you couldn't starve. It'd be a lot easier to die of thirst. But, then that's a matter of knowing where to find water. One of the sad things about homelessness here in the valley is there's somebody with, they've got a bucket to sit on, and they apparently don't know that that bucket would be very useful to gather food instead of standing out there with a sign saying, "Oh, I'm hungry, need food," right? It's right here. And so one of the biggest problems, I think, with homelessness is just a lack of knowledge. Well, laziness too. But oftentimes, at least for those who are not lazy, who maybe are homeless due to circumstances that seemed out of their control, just not even knowing that they're surrounded by food is kind of sad. It's very common that in city landscaping they'll plant really nice agave plants, and agave, yucca, these types of plants, they'll grow for years and years. Then they shoot up that big old spike, and then that spike, before it flowers, is food. You've seen me eat that on another video. And of course, when it flowers, it looks really awesome, but a lot of times you'll see that somebody's chopped off the top of the spike. And in reality, those are probably not homeless people. Those are probably Hispanics who know exactly what to do with desert food. So, yeah, they come up from Mexico. They actually have some education about desert foods. And they see that landscaping and go, yum. And they hack it off. Meanwhile, there's all these people holding signs, "Oh, I'm hungry, I need money," who don't seem to know a thing about that at all. You ever see animals out in the desert? Birds, quail, dove, jackrabbits, desert tortoise. And you look at these animals and you go, how do they live out there? What do they eat? Come on. Right? Well, they live out there because they know what to eat. And they're also not picky. The reason I know about the high protein and healthful benefits of raw, fresh chaparral leaves is just because I know that old ranchers, desert ranchers, if they had a sickly cow that was scrawny and not in good health, They could feed it chaparral. The cow would eat it right up, of course, because the cow's not human, it's not picky. And it would just fix it. Its health would turn around, it would be strong and robust and young again. That's how I know. So I keep walking across doves and quail, and they can live out here because they know what to eat, and they're not picky about the taste. Like, that nasty thing is really good. And if you can learn to do the same thing, if you know what's edible, and you're not so picky about how it tastes, you can do the same thing. If we're in any way above animals, if in some way at all humans are better than animals because we're smarter, or whatever it is that somehow makes us above animals, then surely we can do at least what they can do. Live out in the wilderness without having to bother with money and grocery stores and whatever. You just got to know. You have to have knowledge, and you have to not reject whatever it is that the God, that the Creator has put in your lap and said, here's food. Don't starve. And I think if animals can live out in the desert, live in the most inhospitable places, raise their young generation after generation and not die, if you can't do that, you're not better than an animal. You're not smarter, you're not more ingenious, you don't have a bigger, better brain. Because one of the most simple and elementary things in the universe is just living. Some of the cool things about Palo Verde, even the small trees that are just little bushes, they're size of little shrubs, or grow pods all over them. And another thing is the branches reach all the way down to the ground, and the pods grow all the way at that level. So unlike a lot of foods that grow on trees, this is really easily accessible, even without something like a ladder or or climbing the tree or whatever. So I think I've just about done it. Got a pouch full of brand new fresh food supplied by nature for free. God knew what he was doing, and if we were supposed to live with money and jobs and all that stuff the way I do, everybody does, if that was the way it was intended, then he would have actually created money and it would have grown on trees. So it's time to break away from the dependency on a system that was not designed by our Creator. And there was a reason he didn't design it, and men did.
Over and over and over. I'm like a ghost who has to live the same hell over and over. The cycle repeats without end. Now! Here it goes again! Over and over and over! The cycle of hell will not end. Forever and ever, I pour out my soul for love. I live in bliss for 30 days, and everything is love and beauty. And then she's gone, and then she's gone. Now! Here it goes again, over and over and over. The cycle of hell will not end. There's nothing left inside me but an empty shell. A hollowed out vacuum where my soul used to be. A smile, but there's nothing there. Just a hollow shell where my soul used to be.